Welcome to the Distilled Security Podcast. My name is Justin Leapline. I'm here with Joe Wynn and Rick Yokum, and this is episode 18. To start off with, we wanted to tell you a little bit about a conference we just went to. We just went to TRISS, which was yesterday. Ton of fun. We had a booth that we did a little trivia game, and there was a lot of good contestants there. I thought we had a whole range of people from younger people that I was actually really surprised. Some of them actually got like some of the answers right,
yeah.
like what port is default, for DNS and all that stuff and everything, to more advanced people, that, could rattle it off or not rattle it off depending on, the person.
Yeah, it was fun.
But yeah, and we had a good time. What was something that stood out to you, Rick, on the podcast or the conference?
The conference itself?
Yeah.
I feel like it's such a cop-out, but I just really love the community events and just getting to connect with everyone. Mm-hmm. Some people whom I only see like twice a year. So I think for me, that's the thing. And frankly, we always have fun at the after parties.
Yeah. I wish they would have opened up alcohol a little bit sooner.
Oh yeah,
than 4:30, but yeah.
Yeah, they don't do that, but that's okay. But it didn't stop us from being the last ones there.
I mean, that's our MO. We got it.
I feel like we close every event.
Every event.
Yeah, no matter if there's young people or not there, right. Like we're looking at it, they're like exiting out, and we're like, it's only 2:00. For the audience, we don't stay up that late. It's all the time.
Yeah, just for pizza.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but yeah, I think it went off with a hitch. I really liked like some of their formats. They have a lot of panels.
And
I really appreciate like the talks are great, but they kind of know what they're talking about, through the presentations and everything. But the panels, they get questions ahead of time, but I feel like it's more freeform.
Well, it's kind of this format.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. When they're discussing back and forth and somebody brings up something and somebody responds to it, I feel like it's more organic,
conversational.
I like that kind of format and everything, with it. So
yeah. Did you have a panel? Did you make a panel? Did you get to enjoy any of it?
I stopped in on some, but I've only did like minutes at a time. Yep. So unfortunately, I'd never sat through one thing, So it was always like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there.
Right.
And
I got a chance to sneak into two things. One was the Scott Davis did a talk about how to speak like a CISO. And I thought that was interesting. And I think it was less about how to speak like a CISO, but how to better improve your skills for speaking and how to better engage with audiences. So he could have gave this really at anything and quickly adjusted it. Yeah. But being a person who coaches people professionally on being better speakers, he can probably really easily pivot his talks like that. So he hit everything he said made sense, and nothing was like, wow, I never thought of this before, but he brought it all together in a very nice way. And I know that you interviewed him in advance for that, so it mirrored that. But what he really got into was the rule of three formula, where develop your supporting points, make three of them. Two's not enough and four is too many to remember.
Right.
And it made sense. And then how to connect with your audience was a big thing he covered. And then speaking like a story. And I'm not the best presenter, but I am so much better than I used to be, because I would take a talk and I'd try to take somebody else's material and I'd try to memorize things that just wasn't in my way of thinking. And as soon as I flipped it around to become interactive with the audience and start to do those kinds of things and to actually tell this story in a way that I want to, and then you add in some of the tips you get from a guy like this guy, where keep it in sets of three, make it really easy, and kind of just go through it. And so if you're not to plug anybody on purpose here, but he actually does this for a living. So you can find him on the TRISS website, and you could go find out some information. So if you need help getting better at speaking, public speaking, or giving presentations, go check them out. I thought it was good. Yeah. The other thing I went to was a panel, and it was I think it was called Breaking the Glass Ceiling, and it was the one about how you focused on women.
Was that WISIS?
Yeah.
Put that on? Yeah.
Exactly. And that was good. And as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, what are the things that limit women? And I'm hearing all these things. And as much as I do everything I can to make sure that I'm not like intentionally doing this.
Right.
Like you just start thinking about all the unintentional things you might do because we're not women. So we just don't have the same mindset. We're not in the same challenges.
Right.
And it was very eye-opening. Even though I've sat in those kind of panels before, every time I'm like, you know what, I'm going to try harder. I'm already trying harder, but I'm going to try harder. I thought it was very interesting for that. So, that was just good.
I love that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the storytelling thing, it just put me in mind. I was super lucky to get to go to a kind of a neat, different conference like a month ago. And essentially like Ed Norton ended up being a keynote speaker, but a big thing, and he has some like board presentation software with AI and stuff like that. So we were talking about that. But a big thing that he was talking about was exactly what you were just saying in terms of how important storytelling is and how all the executives that he sees at all the board presentations and things like that, it's basically two core things. It's storytelling and it's empathy. And so I think just complete nail on the head in terms of, storytelling being important.
Oh, yeah. And they hit on EQ a little bit. Somebody asked in the audience, asked a question about EQ or emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And so that resonates. But
what is that?
Emotional intelligence? Rick
I guess it's
my wife would say I don't have any.
But Rick, like Ed Norton, like as in the Incredible Hulk Ed Norton, as in Fight Club Ed Norton?
Yeah. He actually,
holy cow.
He walked on stage and he like was dressed in like civilian clothes or whatever, but he walked on, it was a conference on AI stuff. And so he walked on stage and he went, oh, and he looked confused. He goes, oh, is this AI Fight Club? So it was just like a funny moment to get started. But
nice.
Man, you bring up Hulk as the first movie you cite from him?
Well, it just came to it's
There's
because
so many other better
I know, but I just saw a meme the other day, and it's like who played it best, and it showed each of the Hawks and each of the people, so it was stuck in my head.
Oh, that's cool.
Too much.
Where was he at?
They asked you to rate him. It just had him in chronological order.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so I didn't get my rating. I don't have one.
well, one housekeeping thing. So just if anyone is interested in some of the takeaways from that conference, I'm going to be like posting them out on LinkedIn. So if you're interested in
so you went to a con.
I went to a con about a month ago. I saw a bunch of things.
Not TRISS. Yeah.
Correct. I love TRISS. This was just before that.
Yeah. Another con that you went to. And it was sort of an elite con, right? It had like some of the top people from some of the top places. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah. It was like 100 CISO or CIOs from some of the world's biggest companies, and then like 20 to 30 CISOs. And it was all to talk about AI and where things are going and all of that. And it really, I think, refreshed my perspectives and changed my perspectives on some things. And so I'm going to try and make sure I'm sharing out some.
So if I want to see
things.
some of that, just keep following. So everybody follow Rick on LinkedIn if you want to get some of these tips, because he was getting them from,
I mean, like just
Ed
a ton
Norton.
of people, like Ed Norton and like the CEO of IBM.
Can you say
and
the
like
conference,
the CISO.
or you want to?
No, I'm happy to. I mean, it was Palo Alto's Next Gen Summit.
Okay.
So it was pretty cool, and I think you can see the agenda online. But there were some really cool speakers.
That's not open to the public one.
I think it's by invite.
Invite only.
Essentially.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. But anyway, that was cool. But then, so I want to mention that, but also because you talking about storytelling put me in that mindset. But then the women in tech thing was so interesting because my wife, Amber, was an engineer, and she's always been in kind of a male-dominated field. And I remember talking to her for the first time about a lot of because I met Amber actually working with her at Del Monte. And we for a lot of that time, I worked there and she worked there. We weren't together. And later in our relationship, we had these conversations about like all these blind spots that I had at the time. And I just remember being blown away by the difference in experience and the difference of perspective. And just if you're not if someone hasn't shown you or told you, there just might be a bunch of stuff you don't see.
Oh yeah, that's and I looked around the room and I'm
like what? Maybe I'm still shadowed by this, but I've had teams where I've had mostly women on my team and everything.
Yeah, but
I'm trying to think of like
so a lot of the stuff that we had talked about before were some of the dynamics of decision making because at that time in that culture there were certain rooms where certain decisions could be made and other rooms where those decisions couldn't be made, or opinions that would be taken into account and opinions that wouldn't be taken into account. And it's not to say that it was all 100% always gender-based, but there were elements of it that may have been, or at a minimum, could be perceived as such. And as soon as I've found, as soon as some things like that, if that perception starts to cement itself, then all of a sudden you have a whole host of issues and challenges with people engaging the way that they would typically want to engage in providing feedback and all that, those sorts of things. So, I mean, effectively, even if the culture doesn't have elements of any type of ism in it, right? Even if it doesn't materially, if it feels like it doesn't have all the same impacts, but it certainly has a bunch of negative impacts anyway.
Yeah, one of the things that came up, so to give you an example of something that came up at TRISS in the conversations that was very interesting, is that if you have, and I notice this a lot, if you're on a Teams call or a Zoom call or something like that, there will be no qualms of, we'll even do it right now, of me talking and Rick deciding to start talking, and we try not to cut each other off, but that happens a lot more frequently. And so one of the things that somebody on the panel had called out is that during these Teams calls that have men and women on it, the men are more likely, just from whatever social thing they do, to start talking over.
To interject.
Just like that. Yeah, except you would keep going then,
right.
And would interject and start giving their opinion, while all the women on the call, they said, would wait and they'd hit the raise hand button, but nobody would acknowledge it, and that kind of thing would happen. And so hearing them say that makes me think, all right, now I can pay attention to that. So that's one of the things. I looked around the room and I was like, this would be something I think a lot of women would go to this talk. And I looked around the room and there were a fair number of men in the talk, which I thought was good. And so that's just some of my takeaways.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I think that's more personality based though. Because I've seen women actually interject, oftentimes too. So, and I think it's hard to nail that down to a gender or sex.
Well, I think one of the points they were making is that the majority of women are not going to interject, and the majority of men will. And now what's going to happen?
And that could be, yeah.
The men are going to get their opinions heard, and the women are going to wait. And maybe it happens more. I don't know if it's more of an online thing or if this is in a meeting or whatever.
Because there is a technology delay oftentimes that you're also battling with, type of thing. So
but I think there are. And again, this every person is individuals are individuals, right? But there are behaviors that are biased towards genders typically. I remember seeing a thing, it may still be true, I don't know, but it was true a bunch of years ago where men were much more likely to stretch resume experience in certain ways to fit a job.
Stat,
but women would be very truthful in terms of their experience and very specific about what it is and what it isn't.
Yeah.
And because of that, right, that leads to maybe men getting an interview that a woman wouldn't get.
Right.
And it's kind of behavioral, right? But if you don't create the spaces to make sure that the right resumes are getting to you, however you would do that, right, then you're not necessarily getting the best candidate. You're getting a candidate that happened to behave a certain way, maybe whereas others didn't. And I think the meeting thing is the same concept. If you don't create the space.
Well, yeah, and I saw it was something similar to that, not exactly, where if you had 10 criteria and, let's say you have a guy that only met 7 of them.
Oh, he'd still apply.
He would still apply.
Yeah.
And if a girl met only 7 of them.
I heard something like that.
I think that's
wouldn't
what
apply,
I was,
type of thing. Which in that scenario, that's really hard to then look at the resumes you didn't get,
Well, it's a self-selecting. Yeah.
And that's where, there's actually psychologists out there that will train women to basically compete in the business world, with other men and overcome things of that nature. It's hey, you're good enough, just apply for it,
Right.
The worst case you get is a no,
But then if you're an entrepreneur, to your point, how do you force people to apply? Do you do extra to encourage people that typically wouldn't apply in certain ways to apply in those ways?
Yeah, I don't know that.
I don't know.
I would separate those two things because if I understand what you're saying, if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to get people to apply, I don't know that you can really do a whole lot other than maybe just ask people to apply.
Yeah.
But really, the whole point of that panel was how to break through that glass ceiling. And it was tips about what, not the specifics like you have your occasional people who have already figured this out, but how do the vast majority of the other women who haven't figured out that they should be doing these things to get ahead, not feeling bad about it, not feeling bad about applying if they only have 70% of the items.
Gotcha.
And so I encourage everybody, like, go out on a limb, take a risk, do it. And because, and I don't want to say this to any, just for women or men, but everybody should always be doing that.
Right.
But then the other side of it is, if you're a person who's prone, and I am sometimes, to start talking on a Teams call, like, be aware and just look around. If people are on video, look around. Is there somebody who looks like they might want to say something? Encourage them to it, or give them the room to do it. That kind of thing. So that kind of summarizes the whole thing. It opened my eyes to, I think we still need to keep paying attention and do what we can. And I'm proud to say, like, I believe like at least half, if not more now, of my company are actually women. So
fantastic.
We have a majority of women on the team, and I think they all do a really good job of being heard.
Yeah.
And I think we have become very conscious to make sure that everybody gets heard.
That's great.
Yeah, but it's not like, we'll talk a little bit later on, like building a SaaS and everything. But when I put out a job requirement for my first full-time developer and everything, I got like 900 resumes and less than 5% were women, like it was just, and it was worldwide and all that stuff and everything. But the population is just not there.
That's what I was going to say. I wonder, because I do think there's stats about what genders gravitate towards specific fields too.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with merit. It's just, there's a lot more people of this gender in nursing or teaching or, technology or whatever that is. So your populations will naturally be skewed based on some of that stuff.
But I think, as long as you give open and equal opportunity, and you're looking at, merit-based, at the bottom line, and encourage people to improve in any position that they're at, I mean, I think that's kind of bottom line into that. Like, I'm thinking about, like, I don't think about this a lot, but, like, my company is actually half and half right now. My 2 full-time is a guy and a girl, and my 2 part-time is a guy and a girl. But I didn't look at
it wasn't
that.
Designed to be that. It's just they're the right candidates.
Exactly. They were the right candidates for the right job at the right time, type of thing. So,
yeah, that makes sense. And it's not like you weren't intending to do one thing or another, but you got lucky enough that you had people apply who were qualified. They weren't being felt like they were held back, and they ended up getting the position, which is great.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
So back on the game show stuff you did.
What were we talking about?
I think we were talking about TRISS, but this became a really great conversation that wasn't even on the agenda. So we should add this one as a separate
we should.
For that topic. But for the game show stuff, I saw you recording some of the people who were coming up there.
Yep.
Are you gonna? Did they let you? Any of them let you release?
We didn't really ask, type of thing, but I mean, they knew where we're recording. Into that. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm leaning toward what we're going to be doing is kind of a TRISS snapshot type of thing, like a 5-minute video.
Like a highlights reel.
Yeah, exactly, and have music playing in the background. So we're not going to actually have somebody sitting down and we're going to, listen to all their questions, but we'll have clips of that. I did some B-roll walking through the conference center and everything with my other camera. So I think we're going to do something. Maybe I'll do like an overlay, into that. But I think that will probably be better. I think
you should feature that one question that I saw. I wasn't there when you were recording all of them, but I saw the one, and the question was name a security podcast. And I think you had
our banner right behind. I'm like, look.
And they answered it right.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
That was
pretty good. So. Yeah, but we'll do that, a week or two or something like that, no rush. But yeah, I think that'll be a good promo, and I'll give it to you guys to send out as well, into that.
That's great. Yeah, I had a great time at the whole thing. And I was super appreciative that they let me plug B-Sides date in the morning opening as well.
Just dropped.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so it's going to be on July 10th. And the other thing I got to tell everybody is that the sponsorship packet is soon ready to leave. By the time this cast gets put out for publishing, we're hoping the sponsorship package is out. I think it's going to go to all of last year's or previous sponsors first, and then it'll be opened up to others so that folks can get a chance to get a hold of some of the coveted one only slots.
So.
Yeah. Nice. Great. All right. Next topic here. Can you really rely on cloud service providers anymore?
Can you really rely on DNS?
Yeah, right.
That wasn't all the outage reasons.
That wasn't all. So we wanted to bring in and talk about a little bit of the AWS outage here that was on October 20th of 2025. And then additionally, just yesterday, Microsoft had a global outage with their front door, which I wasn't aware of, but it's essentially an application load balancer. At the end of the day, with that. So, did one of you guys want to go over a little bit of it was DNS obviously with the AWS, but a little bit about the events and what happened. Do you have those notes?
I don't think I have notes on the details of it. I have some thoughts about the follow up, but.
Yeah, so I have it in front of me. Okay. So, with AWS, it was, of course, US East 1. And if you're not familiar with US East 1, they push most of their, new features, into that. So if you're, bleeding edge, you're usually going to there. There's where they release a lot of their, alpha stuff or, big features or new services or something like that.
It's before it's rolled out globally.
Yeah, because, first. If you look at, AWS's design, they have all these regions, US East 1, East 2, East 3. But if you actually look at the design behind the scenes, a lot of them are, I don't know if it's all, but a lot of them are 3 data centers tied into the one service. So they're kind of a try failover into that. And the entire stack is basically built in and around that. But while most of it is, copycat into that, they do release different services in different areas, into this. And US East 1, I think I saw a stat the other day that out of the dozen or so outages that AWS has had over the years, 75% are US East 1, type of thing. So, it is interesting, into that. So if you're looking for stability, don't do US East 1.
Don't start there.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously, if you need some features and you're doing some cutting edge application stuff or AI or quantum or something like that, that might be bleeding edge and they're coming out with it. You probably
that might be the only place it's available, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. So so they came out with this. It was obviously a DNS resolution failure with DynamoDB. And it was widespread, So I woke up. Actually, episki was affected by this.
Okay.
I woke up with a alert. I forget it was 3 o'clock in the morning.
I think it went from. I do know that it went from 2:30, and it was resolved by 5:30, but. It's DNS, so replication.
2:30. So just for clarification, 2:48 a.m. is when DynamoDB API errors started to have the DNS failures, and it was 5:20 p.m. When a lot of the other items were coming back,
finally back.
Yeah, core DNS. By 5:25 a.m. So a few hours of the core stuff, but it had issues all day long.
Long tail.
Over 3,500 companies affected, 60 countries, 17 million users reported items logged on down detector. So
flight delays, I think,
pretty
I heard.
Significant.
Yeah.
And so when something like that happens, who's if your DNS at your company goes down, then somebody's probably in trouble. When AWS goes down and you're at your company, you're like, well,
it's a
this is
global
affecting
issue.
everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, they probably didn't have a good day. But you know what? I mean, a lot of the times when AWS has issues, they'll go back and do a new process and correct root cause and everything. I mean, I can't even imagine running a production line, like pushing out features on an AWS type scale. You know, all the complexity and everybody's apps that are using it in a different way, and it's complex. Like, that is a massive thing to get right, you know, all the time, you know. So yeah, kudos to that. And yeah, I mean, when once you get DNS wrong because of the, you know, the replication, it just, you know, the time it gets to actually correct records and everything is, you know, just takes forever. So yeah, we were seeing, at least on my side, we were seeing issues up until like late Monday. And it was more of we use a service on the back end that does kind of a Firebase, but with Postgres database and everything. And that's hosted on US East 1. And so we were seeing, while the app was working, the interface and the management, you know, wasn't 100% and all that stuff. So yeah, it was interesting. And then yesterday, I would say not as big, you know, but definitely impacted it. There was a lot of identity authentication issues that were coming out with this yesterday. Disruptions went to Outlook, Xbox, Minecraft, Alaska Airlines, Starbucks, Costco. I mean, I would say like. Actually, quick to speak quite frankly, like I was actually surprised how many like DynamoDB like users ever actually like into this or affected. I was like, people still use that. All right, okay, but yeah, it was definitely interesting, and I don't know, attributed to a miscommunication in Azure Front Door.
So is it a change management issue at the end of the day?
Yes. Yeah, they said misconfiguration. So I'm sure they'll be putting in some type of linting checks, you know,
some additional
to
control there.
Make sure that, you know, that configuration doesn't slip by again, you know, into there.
Yeah.
So with this, I mean, things happen, things break and all that stuff. The core that at least I'm kind of curious about is, when do you care with the service providers? So if you're a small shop, do you just live with it? You know, like AWS goes down once every 3, 4, 5 years, and that's our acceptable tolerance. Or if you're doing like multi-million dollars an hour, do you do a multi-cloud strategy to try and balance it out, you know, into that?
Yeah. Well, it comes back down. I always like to get back to basics.
Yeah.
So what's your business impact analysis?
Right.
And what are you relying on?
Yeah.
And so if you're a smallish company that can totally withstand having, you know, a few hours of downtime, some of the best business continuity advice I saw for some of that is, well, we'll just wait.
Yeah.
Because it'll be back up in a period of time. But while you're waiting, well, what are you going to do? And have you planned for, like, what's your tiers of timings? So 5 hours? Well, what if you're at hour 3 and you haven't heard anything and you're going to hit your 5 point? Then what are you going to do on hour 6? Is it time to do something else?
Right.
And a lot of companies, it gets pretty expensive to be in multiple regions of just the same cloud provider, let alone having your application
you're
actually
doubling
work.
your cloud costs at that point.
And then how much more is it to actually, it's not just double your cloud costs, but it's double your engineering and your architecture
just
resources.
the knowledge.
Exactly. In order to be, you know, redundant between 2 different or 3 different clouds.
Yeah. And a lot of that you could do like with front end, again, like I wasn't aware of like front door, but like an application load balancer, you know, if that's hosted into there, you know, that might be your single point, but it could route, you know, in between different things.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it was actually really funny. My insurance company, while I don't have like cloud coverage, I got an email from them after the AWS outage. It's like, here's how to submit a claim.
I got that same email.
Yeah. So, and it was like, oh yeah, like people, I guess, do take out insurance to cover this. Well,
because even if it's not full cloud, like depending on the T's and C's of your policy, like you might have business interruption insurance.
Yeah.
For instance, and there might be elements in there that you could file claims even if it's not cloud specific.
Right.
Yeah. One of the things that this put me in mind of was just how things evolve over time and how, it used to be people didn't have backup diesel generators in their data centers. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you know what? We need that because the power was a commodity that you just can't go without. And it causes too many problems when you don't have it. And then it used to be that there weren't redundant, telco lines into, demarcs and data centers and things like that. And then all of a sudden, oh, well, that's just typical. And I started to wonder, are these sort of core cloud services becoming more utilities in a way than an application? Because I think forever they've treated like an application, right? But I think we might be getting to the point where it's starting to shift where these cloud platforms kind of function like a utility. And if they go down, to your point, it's like, oh, the world's having a bad day, or, this half of the country's having a bad day, or all these major services are down. And it's not that different than, whatever, a major solar flare or something like that.
Government stuff with FedRAMP.
Absolutely right.
Tied in and all that stuff and everything.
Well, I like the mental model you're creating because I never really thought of it this way. And how did this stuff start to evolve over time? So you have your data center and you have your one line, and then your one power, and then you added your second power. And actually, I don't know which came first, adding redundant power,
I don't know,
or having redundant telecom.
Yeah.
So you might have had those. And then what's happening is everything's kind of working so smoothly with it both coming in at the switching layer or your power switching layer is just making that invisible. So now anybody who's running on top of that, that's invisible.
Right.
So how do we, and is somebody solving this problem, taking the multi-clouds and making it invisible to be able to run on top of that layer?
This was the next note that I had was exactly that. It's, I'm sure there's probably some cloud engineer. I could imagine this being like a big thing, which is exactly what you just said. It's like, hey, I'm AWS native, but I want to have the redundancy of something else. So just like it used to be set up multiple data centers, like is there some sort of semi-transparent thing that at some point someone can build and then buy and says, hey, look, I know how AWS works and I know how GCP works, and I can read your settings in AWS and just replicate them to GCP like that. And we can figure out how to seed enough data or what your critical data is and stuff like that and make it somewhat transparent. So you're still paying for two things, but it's the same as companies would pay for multiple data centers when, some still do, but mostly pre-cloud days.
Terraform or some type of infrastructure as code.
Yeah, you could. Sometimes it was just, you would have bare metal and you could use Terraform to do it. Or sometimes it would just be like, no, we just have a warm site and we're just not consuming, we're keeping the systems mostly off except for once a month we'll turn them back on or whatever, whatever the strategy is. But I could see something similar with the cloud thing to say, hey, look, we're going to spin up a bunch of infrastructure automatically in a different cloud. We're going to seed all the data from the past week or whatever, bring everything current to some extent. And if you have separated compute and storage, it's even easier because you can just move the storage over. And then potentially, am I not far enough? Too close? Too far? Oh, thanks, man. Yep. And then, but anyway, do the thing transparently, as you were saying, but from a cloud native perspective, because at some point it feels more like a utility service than an application.
Yeah. So if you're listening and you are the guru cloud architect who has this,
John Ziola,
we need you to be the special guest on one of the episodes and actually talk about how this works.
Yeah, I love that.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. A couple will come to mind and everything. So yeah, we'll talk about it afterwards. But, another thing that's actually interesting. So you remember, like, all you guys, like, doing assessments back in the mid to early 2000s? like a part of this was like, where's your data center? How far away is it from your backup data center?
Oh, yeah.
You know, like
Yeah, yeah.
these are the questions you were asking, you know, in this. And now that it's like,
Now it's, are you in US East 1?
Yeah, exactly. What cloud service provider are you in? Okay, you're good because they're
Right.
doing all the backup strategy and all that stuff, sort of, you know, type of thing. They're not backing up your data, you know, but could be maybe, you know, type of thing.
Maybe.
But like I've also noticed it's not a ton, but some people are now like boomeranging back to hosting their own stuff, mainly price, you know, into that. So like one of the companies I know that I follow for years, they make Basecamp. Like project management, you know, way back in the day they were popular, kind of dropped off a little bit, but they shared their story migrating from the cloud. I think they were in AWS, and they saved hundreds of thousands a month switching to their own data center and standing up their own stack. And they broke down like all the pricing, everything they need. They even had like build a backup, and it was incredible. You know, like you look at that and you're like, wow, like that's a lot of money, you know, that's going out the door for cloud, you know, into that.
Now, did that also include all of their people resources they needed in order to support that?
Yeah, they stood that up. Yeah, they hired the right people, or they retrained, or something like that. That was all in there as well, you know. And they broke it down and like, yep. So after an initial capital cost of getting all this infrastructure and everything, they basically looked at this and they said, we're going to basically like break even in 2.5 years, you know, and then,
very interesting.
You know, past that, we're going to do that.
Yeah. So what risks are they taking on doing that? I can think of, people resources. People now have the knowledge, and it's a very specialized set of knowledge to have to handle and support a data center environment. And if one or more of those people leave, now they have to rehire for that. And so that's something you don't have to do, but at what cost?
Well, did they go from like, was it cloud platform to their own data centers, and they built their own data centers? Oh, so they're not even going with
I don't know if they built their own like physical wall data centers.
Because that's what I'm. Yeah, because you could like. I mean, there's still a bunch of data center providers out there.
Yeah. So, that just gives you
like
full
rack space, expedient, blah, 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 blah.
Exactly. Yeah, so they might have done that. I don't recall that specifically. You know, the more important thing is that like they're not shelling out for all the compute time, you know, into that, and they built their own stack.
That's interesting.
You know, of tech, and they probably. I mean, why wouldn't you? You know, outsource that to somebody else that already has generators and UPSs, and the infrastructure to do that type of thing. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
That's a neat story.
And it really got me thinking. It was like, okay, so who is AWS really for then, or any cloud service provider at that matter? Is like, you know, it's great for the small person that like, you know, I'm trying to spin something up. I'm a new startup or something like that. Like, I'll tell you, like, episki's like back end right now, I pay $30 a month. The entire back end infrastructure is $30 a month, you know?
It's almost like the digital version of WeWork or something. It's like you can commoditize and like share the fixed costs associated with all this infrastructure.
Yeah, exactly. But as soon as you get to a scale, then it makes sense to pulling it in-house, you know, and I'm sure there's a big gray bleed area, you know, into that, you know,
a lot of
all right, there's a lot of work to actually flip over. So when is the burn worth the effort, you know, type of thing. So.
Yeah. And I imagine it's like any other like pendulum that happens where when a thing's popular, it's just supply and demand. A thing's popular and it's probably more expensive because there's a bunch of people vying for it. And then people start to migrate away in the other direction. Then that other thing's popular. And all of a sudden that's the expensive thing. And, you know, I think these pendulums happen in pretty much every kind of technology or, you know, shift that we see.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just thought it was interesting. I mean, and then the creation of like micro cloud service providers like up, you know, like with Vercel and I'm trying to think of another one that I use, but they're basically like mini ones that give you like a lot of the edge compute, a lot of the like easy stuff to do, but they're not full blown AWS, you know, like they don't give you every single bells and whistles. It's like if you need a fast website, the it's built on Node, we gotcha,
Right.
type of thing. Outside of that, it's like, that's not the right, play. So,
No, that makes sense. And just thinking about when you have to think about it, and what is the right time for somebody. And as somebody who's like building your application, at some point, does it make sense for you to use one of the services that are out there? And there are services that do the multi-cloud. They can do the like Kubernetes multi-cloud clusters. There's an open source project, Karmata, if I said it right, enables you to run this kind of stuff. And then some vendors are very specific to doing this stuff, but it's not something you hear a whole lot about. And when you start to look at your own impact analysis,
right.
So and thinking about like Episki, for example, if it's down because AWS is down, then is that tolerable? And for your target audience of customers, is that tolerable? Well, I mean, what's Episki solving at the end of the day? It's not making sure that the heart surgeon's able to perform that surgery.
Right.
It's making sure that you have reliable evidence for your various frameworks. And if you have to wait a few hours to be able to demonstrate that, especially even in an audit situation, say today's your audit and the customer's relying on that, and AWS is down.
Yeah.
Can you have a meaningful conversation with the auditor that's just okay? We're just going to cancel this part of the interviews for today, and we're going to do that tomorrow, and we'll do other interviews today.
There and everything.
Well, a thing I hadn't thought of before too, just thinking through, and I fully agree with your note about like it kind of starts with BIAs, but third-party risk management. Like, I mean, are you asking your SaaS providers, what's your multi-cloud strategy like, and things like that, or how integral are those SaaS providers to your work streams and all that? And I think it does, like everything else we talk about, it comes back to risk management.
Well, it's really funny because one of the topics that we didn't select today was the impact of your third-party risk management. We kind of touch on that almost every time because it's so important and it keeps coming up. But you're absolutely right. Is to what degree are you looking for in your supply chain that kind of resilience, and where do you really need it? And so, with 3,500 companies being impacted by the AWS issue, and airlines being impacted and people's flights being delayed, certainly there were some there that were very impacting, while there were probably tons that weren't.
Yeah.
So,
now, have you guys ever looked into the insurance aspect of this?
Of like multi-cloud strategies, or like what happens when...
No. If you insure like on, like if a cloud service provider...
Business interruption insurance.
Insurance, yeah. Have you ever looked into that?
Not specifically for a cloud outage like you both were mentioning. I didn't get a notification because I'm not relying on something.
And it was
area.
like a general term. I'm just curious because I have not as well. And I'm curious on the affordability and the use case of when that is appropriate. Well, so obviously you would have to be like single region or something like that, or maybe not.
Well,
like
it depends on what you're doing. So like at Del Monte, I remember it was a big deal. We definitely had business interruption insurance because...
Did it cover technology into that?
Oh, yeah. Because at the heart of it, I mean, if you put a perishable product, if you work with a perishable product and your business gets interrupted, spoilage is a legitimate concern.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of other logistic issues in that. But I think, when is it appropriate? I think it really just depends on what's your business model like? Like how elastic is your supply chain and how elastic is your, the supply side and the demand side? Because like I would imagine if you sell the majority of your stuff over the holidays season, you would definitely want business interruption insurance at least to cover that period of time, because if there's a tech issue during that time, it like potentially cripples you.
What's coming up? Black Friday.
Yeah. So
maybe I guess it goes down to how expensive it is and whether it's worth it. Because
like any other insurance.
And how easy it is to violate the terms of the insurance. You're like, what do you need to actually do a successful claim? Because like when I was at gift cards, like holidays, 3-4 months, we were making like millions of dollars a day, into that. And we had a loose, like no push, into that. But yeah, if we're down the millions of dollars,
Right.
that we're not collecting over our website,
In my experience, and it's aged experience at this point, so it might have changed a little bit, but from what I'd seen, a lot of those more prototypical insurance types, like business interruption, those things that have been around for a while, you still have to like justify the claim and make sure you didn't do something stupid and all that stuff. But it's easier to make a claim for like business interruption insurance than it is to do like cyber insurance. Like cybersecurity insurance is notoriously hard for reasons I think we might even have talked about before on the podcast. But business interruption and things like that, they're just more reasonable. It's just like it's like house insurance or whatever. Like bad stuff's going to happen, and so actuaries risk rank that and spread the cost out.
Yeah, I would look at it similar to, well, are we in a hurricane zone?
Right.
And was there a mass set of destruction that happened? And when AWS is down and it affects...
Are you in US East 1?
Yeah. Are you in US East 1?
Is use the only DNS? One? Oh, man.
Everybody who uses DNS, you're not going to get your claim. Sorry.
Yeah.
You have to memorize your IP addresses. Yeah, only those who memorize their IP addresses, type them in directly, can get coverage.
Yeah, funny. So wrap up into this.
Yeah.
Don't use DNS. Is that what I'm getting out of it? So,
just stop DNS. Actually, it was funny because one of the news sources was incorrect, but it when I looked it up on my Feedly to see what the whole Azure issue was yesterday, the first thing that came up was incorrect, but it said it was DNS.
Oh, that's funny.
And it's like made the joke of it's always DNS even funnier.
Yeah, right.
Even when it isn't, it's DNS apparently. So, but yeah, lessons learned. I don't know if you do your impact analysis, understand what you're relying on, look at your supply chain. I mean, you can find previous discussions. You can find discussions all over the place on supply chain. Supply chain so important that when they did, even NIST CSF 2.0 from 1.0, they added supply chain, right? So it became a very critical thing. It's years past now since that's come out. And then you have to decide, is your cloud service that you're selling to your customers so important that you need to actually figure out the multi-cloud strategy? And if you're somebody who's a buyer relying on it, look and see if that's in your model. Look at your threat model. See how it blends in.
And like most businesses, think about it in terms of when your business does certain things. If you're heavily reliant on AWS to run payroll, but you only run payroll twice a month, and that's the only critical service, well, you need it when you need it, and the rest of the time you don't. So how do you think through, because I guess my point there being the criticality of various services fluctuates over time in two ways. One, there's times of the year, times of the month or whatever that things are more important or less important, but there's also this concept of the duration of an outage matters materially as well. And so you might be fine in 4 hours, but hour 5 is really painful.
Yes.
Or 4 days is fine, but day 5
and
is
you
a
know
nightmare.
where your pain threshold sits. You may not. And if you don't, well, that's tolerance and appetite.
Yep.
And you got to figure out where, did we talk about this in a previous one? You have your interrelationship between appetite, and that's how much risk you have an appetite to have. Yep. Your tolerance, which is what are your thresholds? And then their third part is when in the tolerance continuum do you have to start to react?
Yeah.
And you need to know when that trigger is and what causes that trigger.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw something the other day that your defined appetite is not always your actual appetite, which I thought was absolutely true.
Yeah.
Into that. So we're okay being down for 2 days, or something like that. And then on half a day on day one, one of the execs get a screaming customer in their ear. They're like, "We're not okay with this. It needs to be up right now."
Well, I think that has
our biggest customer just called.
People are so forgiving of what might happen in the future, and they are not forgiving about what's happening right now.
That's well
just a
put.
Because it gets very emotional.
Yeah, it's just a common psychological way that we are as people. Just think about it. I'm thinking, you know what? Future me is going to be totally much better in shape than current me and is going to eat much better. But future me, I never get to that point.
Oh, cheers.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Going on. Why don't we do alcohol?
Yeah, let's do that. And then we'll hit on, we were talking about episki, so maybe we can talk about that afterwards.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So today we decided to go with the black dark bottle, being that Halloween is tomorrow here. This is actually a Penelope version. Just came out. It's Project X.
What is it? Penelope?
Penelope. Yeah, and we've had Penelope on before.
Architect, maybe?
I think the Toasted.
Oh, Toasted.
Oh, that was delicious.
Yeah.
That was good.
It was very good. And we actually gave one of those bottles out yesterday at TRISS and everything. But this one here, they're basically doing a experimental, thing. A lot of the bigger distilleries, they'll do their staples, and they'll expand their staples, into certain things. But then they'll do small batches to see where people like. And, quite honestly, it also attracts a different audience. Like a lot of the bourbon, whiskey, spirit, community, they like the new. They like to chase the new taste, what's coming around the block, what's people experimenting with, what are they doing with peat or double or triple casking or, and this one here is finished in a Oloroso sherry cask, which was coming out of Jerez, Spain, Jerez, Spain. I'm probably butchering that.
I'll leave it to you. I'm not going to try.
Yeah, exactly. But essentially, it was double cast. So they age this. It doesn't say the age onto it. It's 108 proof. And then they finish it aging in a Oloroso sherry cask. So instantly, when I got this, it's a little hot, so it's 108 proof. You definitely taste that. It's above the kind of 90 is my sweet spot, so you can taste it a little bit hotter. But then it has a lot of sherry in the aftertaste, and it's all right. It's good.
I will say it has grown on me as I've been sipping it. At first, the amount of sherry on the back end felt a little overpowering or cloying.
Okay.
But as I've been sipping it,
you get a lot of sherry on the latter taste.
Yeah, but as I've been sipping it, I like it more and more.
So, I love the nose on this when it comes after I drink it, and and I saw you put a little. I put a less chips of ice in.
Yeah, I put a little cube in there,
and I only had a couple of small chips, but that opened it up and it kind of cut the burn.
Yeah,
I liked it.
Yeah, so definitely recommend to try out. Maybe not stock your cellar, with this, but it's worth a try, I would say.
I like it enough to have a little more.
Yeah. What's this? What's a bottle like this go for? It's under 100, isn't it?
You asked me the hard questions.
Yeah.
Project X,
and that's a fully black bottle. You can't see through that at all, can you?
No.
Which is. I like the black bottle, but it's kind of a shame because it's a really nice color booze.
Sorry. $70.
Oh, okay.
Retail.
Yeah.
I got two, so I was like, cheers, guys.
Cheers.
I was going to say, while that lid's off, you should pass it over this way.
Yeah.
I'll put the lid back on to pass it over Justin's laptop. He's working off one these days.
Yeah.
Now, did we want to dive into F5 here?
Well, we can talk about it quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so F5 breach is what we're talking about.
Yes.
And that was announced on October 15th. So October, a big month for outages and breaches. And this was interesting. Lots of the Department of Homeland Security CISA directives coming out of it. And in summary, and so if you haven't heard of this, in August 2025, F5 discovered a nation-state threat actor, widely believed linked to China, according to the notes we have, had long-term persistent access to its internal systems, including the big IP product. And so what it did was it gave a lot of exposure of potentially foreign adversaries being inside of networks, and it's heavily relied upon by lots of parts of our government. So that's
and
why
also
it's
private
important.
sector too,
And private sector.
Yeah.
Like a ton of the Fortune 500.
No, absolutely.
And my impression, just to interject, real quick, my impression of what they attacked, they didn't say exactly, but it sounded like it was like some type of wiki, or internal kind of documentation site, because they said they got snippets of source code and
some customer configs.
Yeah, exactly. So it almost seemed to me like they got access to some type of portal where they put a lot of this stuff up there, type of thing. Because they were very adamant on saying there was no compromise to the source code. They, at least that they couldn't confirm,
right,
and everything like that. And and they said for source code, portions of Big IP source code were stolen. So I bet that's probably some type of internal documentation site, that they probably got access to. Yeah. My best guess.
So by the time you're listening to this, if you haven't already taken care of this, if you're using F5 and you haven't patched, you're really late.
Yeah, you're going to want to do that yesterday.
Here's the thing, and I always thought that it was kind of odd. They confirmed nothing was compromised, but they released a whole bunch of new patches.
Yeah, nothing was compromised, but there was a lot of patch right away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what does that mean?
Tough to draw conclusions.
Yeah.
I mean, because it could be one of those things where, we have an identified issue. Let's highly scrutinize all this stuff. We found a bunch of other things along the way.
Well, how many times have we heard this story, and that's exactly what it's been, nothing compromised, and then 6 weeks later, which we're not to yet,
right?
You get the next announcement of, it's bigger than we thought, or it was deeper than we thought. Not that we're paranoid on this podcast, but I think we're a little paranoid on this podcast.
Yeah.
But I think it's common. It's a common approach because investigations are crazy and
but I guess I just look at it from a logical perspective. Like, if nothing was changed, what new code are you pushing out? And I don't think, and it could be my fault, I didn't dig into it that deep, but I saw that they were pushing out a whole bunch of patches. Like, what do you push out then?
Right.
They have some things that they said were vulnerable, and part of it, 600,000 F5 Big IP devices, potentially, keyword, vulnerable, and over 250,000 of those exposed in the U.S. alone.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm sure that language was carefully crafted, but I can't pierce what it would mean. Like, potentially vulnerable based on what? Like, there's a bunch of things.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been in that wiki that they had access to. Maybe they're discussing potentially undisclosed vulnerabilities.
I think I did read that was something that they had access to. Yeah. Was undisclosed vulnerabilities, and so maybe that's what all these patches were. So is like rapid patching of all those things.
They rushed to patch all those, so that they didn't have a chance to actually.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, that could be with that, but I think everybody's fear, especially when it first came out, is this another SolarWinds, type of thing.
Yeah,
where now we've had. Nation state actors into a whole bunch of devices all over the place and everything. And it appears not to date, into that. But, and I also thought it was interesting. One of the things because I follow regulatory and all that stuff, they were compromised in August. They didn't release until, when did they release?
October 15th.
October 15th. And the reason that they came out and they were actually cleared was because the government had involvement into this.
I thought I read that the attackers had been in the systems for over a year, though, and they went dormant for a while.
Just a clarification. It was discovered in August of 2025.
Yeah, okay.
For what Rick said. So you were right on the date as well. And so what you're saying is because they weren't guilty in the public eye of not disclosing sooner because
the Department of Justice granted.
Government
right.
investigations were happening inside, and they told them, probably because of how much the government uses it, they want to investigate first before this is made public.
Yeah. But I thought that was an interesting point too, how the attackers were, the systems had been breached for over a year. They were just sitting there listening or not doing anything, which I always think is such a high risk, high reward tactic. Because at any time they could probably like get kicked out and not maybe get the things they're looking for. But if they make it past that 1 year mark and all the logs roll over, then all of a sudden, well, how'd they get in becomes much more difficult to answer.
And one of the things, I don't think it's been in any of the news, at least from what I saw too. I always want them to give us like, what was your IOC, the indicator, of how you found this?
Right now, I was looking, I couldn't find anything on that yet.
Yeah, because like it's in over a year. So what triggered you finding this? What changed? What popped up?
Because we're talking about nation states and the DOJ's involved in stuff, I'm pretty sure that's guarded information in case those same IOCs are elsewhere.
Yeah, but CISA is pretty good at like blasting those out when relevant, into that. They'll release IOCs and stuff of that nature.
I think they'll hold some too, depending on what they're doing.
Yeah. Even a quick search right now says that for exactly how it was discovered, there's no public disclosures yet.
Mm-hmm. And I find that unfortunate because that's the stuff I want to because as people advising companies or protecting companies and all that stuff, I'm like, tell us how you discovered that.
It would be good to know if it's applicable.
I want to
because I want to exactly. So what they say that they do know is internal monitoring. So nothing that's going to be surprising, but the only thing written, internal monitoring, security investigation, forensics, that kind of stuff, all came together. So somebody probably was looking at the right thing at the right time, noticed something, started looking a little bit harder, realized something is a little odd, and then it went
might have
from
been
there.
an IP address, maybe, pinging up, at odd times or something like that. Because the actual activity... I don't know the story, but if they're just looking at a wiki, that's really hard to track down, type of thing. That's probably not a system that has access to reviews. That's probably not a system that, would be flagged on anything. It depends on what they're doing, but it might have been their SOC be like, what's this, IP coming from Beijing, at 4 a.m, that's weird, and then looking into it and then finding the root of the compromise.
Yeah. I've also seen a couple times in the past situations where change management, essentially, or change management of a legacy system that needs to be reverse engineered before it can be migrated elsewhere, results in higher scrutiny because the IT teams or the InfoSec teams are like, well, how's this even being used today in the enterprise?
Yeah.
Because we need to move it from this place to this other place. And they start looking and they go, well, hey, this is weird traffic. What are you doing, business person?
Going on here?
And they go, well, I'm not doing that. They go, well, what do you mean? And then they look and they go, oh no.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we'll ever know, but it's a good story.
It's not to rely on, but I've seen change management be a tactic for like threat hunting effectively.
Yeah. So some of this story. I mean, I don't think there's really too much we can gain with this. I mean, they haven't shared a whole bunch of details into it, but obviously making sure you're patching your infrastructure.
And everyone's like do zero trust and network segmentation and least privilege and all your standard stuff, which people have a hard time doing because it's hard and no one has money. And
so, do you remember the advice like way back in the day where they said you should always have like 2 different vendor firewalls?
Oh yeah.
Within your DMZ or something like that. So a compromise of one wouldn't actually lead to a compromise of another. Into that. Potentially, that was the thought process.
Yeah, I do. But it makes me think if I were to manage that today, I would want a transparent layer to make the config changes to both of those at the same time. Right. And then I'm like, oh, well, what if I make a config error then and it bricks it or opens something up in the wrong way, the redundancy no longer matters because and I think that's a thing that gets missed sometimes, and this applies to the prior conversation and this conversation, but if you have a redundant solution, but you manage it centrally, right, the cost of a mistake kind of disables the fact that you have redundancy in the first place.
Yeah, you're not literally defense in depth, because you remove the depth, you make it equilateral.
Yeah, you need like a layer 1, team to deal with the one firewall and a layer 2 team to deal with the second firewall.
Yeah, now I can see the benefit though. So if you know that you're using F5 on the
fully
one
agree.
and you're using something else, as soon as you hear about this, you can just kill it. Just turn it off, unhook it, and then go and deal with your patching.
That's
figure out
if
what's
you're doing it
happening.
in parallel.
Yeah.
I was talking about doing it at 2 different layers.
In serial.
Oh, I get
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
I was talking about parallel management and configuration.
you. Right.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But yeah, in serial in terms of the traffic flows.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Where like the border firewall would be F5 and then your
Oh, well, yeah, you can
Juniper,
still just
Cisco.
bypass it and but still have your firewall protection, and you just don't have 2 of them for the time it takes to.
right.
Right.
But it'd say like
patch.
if an F5 compromise happened, and let's say they had full access, your back-end firewall wouldn't open up your entire network. So your
Right.
DMZ might be wide open,
Yeah.
but it's generally open anyways.
Yeah.
Type
No,
of
it's
thing.
It's just like anything else. Like how many internal doors of your house do you lock?
Yeah.
It's like I don't know. I lock the outside door.
Right.
I typically don't lock like the door to the basement and then the door to the bedroom or whatever.
Yeah. You don't lock all the doors on your way in?
Yeah, one after the other.
Yeah.
Amber would kill me.
Yeah. It's just like Maxwell Smart going down the hall.
Well, and the thing is, like, well, you guys know, like, with my house and everything, so we obviously lock the door, but one of the things we do on the security system is anytime an external door gets open, it beeps. And I had them actually install, it was funny, the security guys said it never happened before, which I thought was really odd. So the alarm panel is next to our mudroom, next to the garage, and I was like, well, if there's an intruder, like, I have to walk all the way downstairs to disable the alarm. I was like, I want one in my bedroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had one
that
in both
totally makes
places.
sense.
Yeah, he said, he's like, I never had that before.
Well,
I'm
he
like,
wasn't
"Are you
my
kidding me?"
customer in yours,
Yeah, right.
apparently, because he would have had that.
Yeah. But yeah, we have a panel like in our bedroom that, that I can actually look to see what door opened and stuff of that nature. And then the thing, but we also have that it goes beep, beep, like.
It doesn't play the John Cena music?
Yeah, I wish. That would be awesome. It'd get a little old after like all our kids
Let me
go
ask you,
out of the house.
do you have turrets in both places, or just turrets for the outside?
Yeah, right. The what is that? Idiocracy, when they like shoot each other.
Exactly. Oh, that movie's more true and true.
Oh,
Anyway.
Yeah. So we should do like a solid movie podcast.
Oh,
that'd be a good time.
Yeah.
By the way, favorite Edward Norton movie?
It's probably Fight Club.
Same.
Fight
I
Club?
really.
So why he was excellent with that, I think I would have to say Rounders.
Rounders is
that was
great.
the one about gambling, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I did
Matt
love
Damon.
that movie.
Yeah.
He told a cool story about Rounders.
Oh, let's
I don't
hear
know. Well, so he was talking about empathy, and he was talking about how in his experience, you find different, he called them access points to like identify with the emotional state of the person you're trying to be. And it's different at different times and stuff like that. And I think for Rounders, it was the jacket. And it was one of those things where he's like, oh, I know who I am supposed to be as this character because I got the jacket, and the jacket's everything. And he said like sometimes it's a walk, or sometimes he was telling this story about a short film that he did that had to do with him being an inmate at the prison, and it was a voice. Like he actually was having trouble figuring out how to be the person, and so he interviewed a ton of prisoners, and one of them just had this super gravelly voice. And he's like, and as soon as I heard that, I knew who the character was and how to act as that character. So anyway, I mean, even going back to storytelling a little bit, like figure out your access point for the story that you're telling to drive and build the empathy.
Gotcha.
But it was cool. Anyway, yeah.
So
I
your
like
next
Fight
board
Club.
meeting, you're going in with a gravelly voice. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right.
Come on, look at the metrics.
It's like just go in as Bane. I don't know. If you have a Halloween board meeting, it might be worth.
Bane always had that weird voice, though.
Oh no, you're right. That wasn't gravelly. It was the one that was kind of like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like he's on the border of like puberty or something like that. It's like, what is this voice? You know?
Yeah.
But I loved him in that. And
Rounders.
you know what? Another one that he did phenomenally in was The Score with Robert De Niro, where he's like that retarded janitor. Is retarded the right word? Well, anyways, he played that like special needs, you know, janitor, but then was not that outside the way to get in to steal like some of the jewels and everything. Just stuff that. When you have characters that are that dynamic and can play, and you totally believe their character, like
you just
when
bring
he played
them to life.
Worm in Rounders, like he was that character. You know, type of thing.
It's incredible to watch.
That'd be cool. That
was neat.
All right, last topic here. How to fail at a SaaS. And I'm an expert at that.
No. We can't let you do that. I won't let you do that, my friend. So the topic's actually launching a SaaS.
Oh, right. And, I got that wrong.
You're not failing. You're succeeding, man.
Oh, man. The times that, like, I failed at everything. Like, so...
how many failures does it take to get the success?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yes.
How many light bulbs is it? You know, failed light bulbs, you know?
Right.
And just be right with one. So, to give you a little background and everything. So, about, and it's almost embarrassing to say how long. I started off with a beta probably 7 years ago.
And you've been doing this full time since then, right? Like that's just all you've been doing for 7 years. Oh, okay.
You'll be an overnight success. It only takes 10 years.
Exactly. Like my first iteration. So I had. Let me back up a little bit. So with episki, I had an idea at Diebold, at previous companies I worked with, that the GRC market was serving basically the upper echelon of organizations, the ones that had a whole bunch of complexity and can afford all this money to actually solve it. And I actually remember, like, it was way back in maybe 2010. I worked at Diebold. We bought Archer. You know, Archer was the premier GRC tool at that point. We bought 4 modules, 50 licenses. You know, for people.
Oh, they're going to say 50 people in order to run
50 people licenses into it. You know,
could be 50.
But we bought 4 modules, and it was like policy, compliance, audit, and I'm missing one.
Risk or something?
Yeah,
or
maybe something like that. Yeah. We paid $250,000. And
annually, right?
No, there was a separate $60,000 license annually, but we were self-hosting.
But a ton of money.
Yeah.
So this is back when we capitalized software, not just get it all
exactly. So we had to, this was just a license of the software. Then we had to put it on our own infrastructure. So we had to get our SQL server together, all that stuff, front end. And then we had to hire some people.
Professional services to implement.
To do that. We went out to... where was it? Overland Park in Kansas for a week for training.
Sounds right.
That's where Archer was originally before.
And they charge you for training to go to the training class, right?
They include it.
They include it. It's a line item somewhere.
You know, $250,000, you get a free week out. Well, no, we had to pay for our plane tickets out there and maybe a hotel, but the class was free. You know, into that, and I'm like. And you get into it, and you're like, all I'm dealing with is controls and evidence, and, you know, like...
It's just a workflow system.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that hard. Why is it $250,000? You know,
so the same thing that we can do in Excel.
Yeah, basically. And so I was like, there has to be an easier way, you know, type of thing. And, so I started doing a prototype... I think at gift cards, I started doing a prototype. And it was all one big PHP monolith application. So back end, front end, everything was, you know, kind of one thing. And it worked for a time. Like I moved over at that point to TRISS Sec, and we were utilizing the tool, and we got rocks out through the tool. It wasn't customer.
What's a rock for those who know what a rock
report
is?
on compliance? It was the end result for doing a PCI audit. You know, so the full blown,
very specific report format,
writing all of it, all the evidence, everything into the report. We did it all through the portal. It wasn't customer facing, but I produced status reports out of it. on a weekly basis saying, you still owe me this evidence. You still, like, here are the findings.
So the assessors were using it to run the engagement.
Yep. And we did it probably half a dozen times, and it worked awesome. We submitted, basically, we printed to PDF the rocks, and we submitted to the banks, and there was no issues whatsoever. And so we got a little bit of validation into that. But one of the things we were seeing through this was dealing with all these controls and it being a monolith application. You had to wait for it to load. And you could do some things with caching, but it was one of those things like, hey, this isn't going to work out, in the long run, dealing with this amount of information. There's modern architecture, for some of this stuff. And we then went into a different way of doing this, and we split it up. After I left TRISS Recap, we basically did kind of like episki 2.0. And we split up into a back end and front end. And the back end is actually run by a service called Supabase. It's actually open source, but we're using their service to kind of do the management into it. It's like Firebase, if you're familiar with that. A lot of different calls to database, almost seamlessly API driven, but it's run on Postgres, which is a known database, and you can control it with that. It does all the authentication, so we can do OAuth to like 20 or 30 different services, into this, which is great. We only do 2, Microsoft and Google, because that's what it is. But you could do Slack, you could do a whole bunch of stuff. We can do real time, so we actually have real time syncing. We have local caching. With the modern architecture is awesome. The problem of rolling out a SaaS, there's a lot of different things, and I even go over like analyzing the market and doing all that stuff to like look at a problem and pulling at this stuff. But the biggest mistake I would say I made with episki is thinking I could part-time roll this out myself, into this. Like, it is a lot, and my primary revenue is still consulting. So I'm still out there helping customers and everything, and that's paying 2 full-time and 2 part-time employees. So like my salary,
that's how you're bootstrapping the whole thing. Right.
If you can not do that, 100% recommend to do that. Type of thing. Like, the problem is that straddling, and when you're helping customers out, going back and forth, it is such a hard time doing that, into it. And it's like, can you imagine doing an audit for a full week, and then after you're done with that audit for 8 hours, going in and actually developing more code? It's not sustainable.
It might be easier to get up in the morning super early, drink your coffee, and then develop code, and then go do the audit, because it sounds like the audit's going to be the easier thing for your mind after a long day.
Yeah, maybe, and I help customers on front end, onto the audit, like the interface in between for, a number of times. But yeah, it's just one of those things, like if I'm coding and this is just the way I'm built, I need at least 2-3 hours.
You need to get in the flow.
I need another, a good time to start, troubleshoot, get it out, get it done.
Well, and then you also have a family, and you have industry events and all sorts of things like that you're doing also. So yeah, just nights and weekends would be really difficult.
So yeah, that's one thing. It's like, it's so much easier if you had the time, and that's why, honestly, I've taken zero funding, so far, which is nice. It will be nice, once this thing starts launching. But at the same time, it's really hard, because if I was funded, then I wouldn't have to do consulting,
Right.
And it'd be 100% of building this out.
So there's pros and cons of this.
Yeah. But then, I've had a number of conversations, but if you're doing kind of a pre-seed, which is where I'd be into that, or angel, depending on where you split it up, they're taking 40.
Oh yeah.
Plus or minus % of your company.
Yeah.
And no doubt,
the risk is so high on their end.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't blame them for that. But do I really give up half my company for $100K?
Right.
Right. Sounds like Shark Tank deals there.
Exactly. And that never made sense to me. At some point I may take some investment, but that's to put fire on what is already working.
Right.
Once we get a validated product, customers coming in, money's looking good, we got a good team, then it's going to be to, just expand how fast we're getting stuff out there.
To supercharge
marketing.
it.
Yeah, exactly. Type of thing. But it won't be at 40%, it'll be at 10% or something like that.
And there's probably, I'm interested in your perspective on this. I would suspect if you had taken, say, money early on when it was a monolith application, you might have gone down a path, or it might have been harder to turn around because you would have accelerated so far in one way that then you recognize an updated architecture because you've learned things along the way, and you go, oh, well, you had the ability to pivot because you had some time to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and to do that, because with money comes demands.
Right.
Type of thing. Like there's expecting a return at that point. So
you're not your own boss.
Right, exactly. So you're absolutely right. It would be way harder to pivot at that point, unless they're like really good at understanding investors.
So I love what I'm hearing, and I won't remember all these points at the end, so I'll just say when I'm hearing them is, one is decide, are you going to want a boss or be your own boss for it? And that'll help you decide whether you want somebody else's money, or can you find a way to get it done bootstrapped long enough to make it where it needs to get to. Yeah. And then the other thing I'm thinking about, and I'm not sure what your thoughts are or how much you consider this, is thinking about like the end game. So I always like to think about where am I going to be when I'm done, and how big can it be? How many users can possibly want this thing and need this thing, like market?
Yep. And
based on that, times the number of how much they would pay for it, what does that look like? And, for a lot of people, 50% or having only 50% of that amount is going to give them the lifestyle they need when they sell versus...
and I'm not giving up all that. I've considered that. I'm not looking for a lifestyle company. I'm estimating, I have a number of spreadsheets, and I've done some analysis on different sites and all that stuff. But the GRC market is huge. It's like $127 billion market, into that. Obviously, that's nowhere near what I can, make out of this, But I was estimating, with the market and with some of this stuff, within the next 3 to 5 years, I can probably get to, and it's a big range, but $10 to $50 million a year, into that.
In recurring revenue.
Into it.
Yeah.
I think that's a doable number, into that. We'll see, into there, because right now we're doing a very simple, and I always want to make it like simple for the smaller businesses, because like I hate when like GRC companies are like, here's a module and then it's per user, but it depends on the user and the access, and like you can't even figure it out.
You're not even trying to compete with like an Archer in this case.
No,
you're trying to find.
In fact, I tell my team our primary competitor is spreadsheets.
Yeah.
That is our primary competitor.
Because the smaller organizations are so underserved in this space.
Yeah. So, and they're probably still on something, like they're still on like spreadsheets trying to deal with 2 or 3 compliance realms, or just don't have a clear picture of what their program looks like. Spreadsheets are all over the place, even if it's on OneDrive, type of thing. It's still, nobody knows where.
Or they're growing their business and they have a situation where, I don't know, we just landed our first big client and they're asking me all these questions. Yeah. And I don't know what to do.
And I get that all the time.
What's your ICP like? Employee count at your average customer that you're targeting?
So it depends. It was funny. I was just having this conversation. It depends on the industry. The higher regulated they are or scrutiny they get, the lower it'll be, because they realize that pain point sooner, into that. The less regulated, it could be way bigger.
A bigger company.
Yeah, so like manufacturing or something like that. Yeah. Like they're not under a ton of scrutiny to get security right. And, I could come up to them and they could be like a $2 billion manufacturing and have one person for security. Perfect. That's our ideal customer.
Yeah. And they're probably not CMMC at that point, because
or something like that.
Yep, but they so not highly regulated, even if manufacturing. All right, that makes sense. And so,
but it could be 100% fintech. Like one company I worked with at TRISS Recap, they were pre-revenue all VC funded, trying to get into the financial industry. They were a 40-person company that had to get their product PCI compliant before they could even start to market it. And one of the problems that they had was, we went in, we did a gap, problems everywhere. They got, helped them out, got them fixed, went through the rock, got them compliant, into that. We came back year 2. What you guys were supposed to do a pen test. You guys were supposed to do quarterly scans. You guys were supposed I thought we were done.
Yeah, as soon as you went away, I that went out of my mind. We're trying to build a thing.
Come on, guys.
Yeah.
So a tool like episki can help them remember what they're supposed to do, help them keep on track.
Yeah. So all the tasks and evidence are built into it, tied to the controls you need to achieve. We're actually working on. We're doing a whole bunch of stuff with, of course, AI now. Because it's a thing. But one of the things that we have on the use case deliverable is based on the control set, suggests all the tasks that you need to do, and then it'll be an easy click button to actually say, yes, it says I have to review my policies every year. Yes, create that task, type of thing. Yes, I have to do quarterly access review. Yes, create that task, type of thing. It'll just look at the controls and then say, oh yeah, there should be a task for this because it's highly manual and somebody needs to do something, into that. And then you can assign it to the right person or group and, then track it, on whatever schedule you need.
No, I love this conversation. I'm getting 2 different framings we can do for this conversation, and I'm gonna let's solve them both here. One is going back to TRISS. There was I talked to a significant number of college students at TRISS, and I don't know how many of them, but some were thinking, I want to build something. They want to go down your path. And if they're going to do that, the kind of takeaways that we're getting from this conversation that I'm hearing is these students listen to this. They probably signed up yesterday. They probably came by and took a QR code.
They were forced to do trivia.
And they did that. So if you're listening, tell your friends that are developing software that there are a couple things to consider. And Justin went through a lot of this. So don't repeat some of the things that he had to already figure out. But decide, do you want to get an investor and have the luxury of somebody, giving you the money to get things done? And as a student, you have so many years ahead of you, so you can do it. And if it doesn't work out, that's not the thing. And the other side for a student, though, they don't have the ability to do what you do. They do not have the experience to go out and consult and put money on the table to handle all this stuff. So that's the other side. So
it's hard to identify pain points if sometimes you're not in deep in an industry, into that. And it's a interesting dynamic that kind of the entire SaaS industry is in. So one, there are a ton of stuff coming out because everybody with AI can generate an MVP, a minimal viable product, over a weekend. Type of thing. They have an idea. They'll ask AI, Claude, whatever it is, generate this website, do this, and all of a sudden they have a basic product that just shows what you can do and everything like that. And that's phenomenal. And, in this kind of environment, you should fail fast, get it in the customer's hand and see what they like.
Well, some of these were PhD level students, so
but it doesn't matter.
They have a little bit more. School. They could have. I mean, adjusting your experience level. Yeah, they have a little bit more knowledge than say you're just 4-year college grad into it, and so I could see them having a little bit more industry knowledge that they had to do and get in order to get to the PhD level. But then being able to figure out if they're going to fail fast, I love that. So that's the one part I was thinking about. But I want to go back to just episki in general. And you gave so much, but you were talking about things that made me feel a little confused at first, but then I think you got rid of it, which is you talked about all the various technologies and all the various stuff with the databases and things behind it. But your buyers
have to sometimes stop myself from nerding out over that.
But your buyers don't have to care about any of that. That's all back end stuff. They have to just go to the front end and they get it. And
you guys have both like experienced it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it is lightning fast. It's like a native application on.
And
And
that's the key. That's
did-
like what makes it great. Well, here's
yeah.
all the acronyms and things that I use in the back end and how I've pivoted.
Yeah.
But this is part of why it makes it great.
Yeah.
And you did a lot of stuff in the last year alone, right?
Yep.
To cache things so that it would just be really fast. It would actually start like preemptively pulling data in, knowing where you're going, right?
Oh yeah, like, and we've even done like native key mapping to it, like hotkeys into it. Like it is something like if you're going control by control, you can actually hold in a key and it'll go like it's like again like it's running on your computer. And this is all over the web because we have like prefetching going on, local like data set that's actually stored into your browser. We're thinking about actually implementing a SQLite into your browser at some point. It's a backlog ticket.
But it's got to be super expensive though. But you probably don't tell anybody the prices either. They have to like set up a sales call. It's super hard for them to be able to get the information right. There's no way they're going to be able to quickly just go online and quickly know what to pay.
He's teeing you up.
Yeah, exactly. No, we have one flat cost and everything. It's $350 a month, 20% off if you pay by year. You know.
Oh wow!
That.
So it's super easy to buy.
Yeah.
And it solves problems, and it gets rid of the spreadsheet stuff.
And you can have unlimited users, like
unlimited users.
And in fact, that was one of the things we were talking about earlier on, paying for users. I never went to a point where if somebody's collecting evidence, say you have a task for every 3 months, somebody needs to collect evidence, and you assign it to somebody that's not their daily job to be in a GRC tool.
Right, like, I forgot that I was supposed to do a pen test again.
It's like the network guy. Like, hey, you need to do an ACL review every 6 months, type of thing. Well, I don't want to pay for an extra user license, into that. I never wanted like dollars to be like, should I assign the user or should I just ask them to send me the evidence and I'll upload it?
No, they just automatically get access.
Yeah, that's the thing. Other GRC tools, they're like, oh, that's another user license.
Yeah.
So
now let me ask you this. How does that engineer get to know that it's their time to do something?
They get a notification.
How do they get that?
Email right now. We're working on Slack.
An email.
Yeah,
so they're already working in email, and in the future they're already working in Slack.
Yep.
They'll get the reminder.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
So it's easy for people to remember what to do. You don't forget your stuff, and you don't have to misplace the spreadsheet.
Yep.
It puts me in mind of like one of my favorite Steve Jobs quotes, which is like, it's simple to make things complex, but it's complex to make things simple. And so you talk about all these technology on the back end and all of the experience you have to have put together the architectures and the patterns and like how do you do assessments in a way that makes it simple for the end user to succeed, right? And that's all the knowledge and experience and tech that goes into this. And I think the thing that I love about the output is, this is designed to be simple so that, it can scale for a big organization, but it's kind of designed for organizations that might have one person or one half-time person, but they have these heavy compliance requirements. Because I think you probably see a lot of clients like this. The small ones that with heavy regulatory burdens are the ones that have a really tough time dealing with that.
Right.
So I love that sort of mission, at least my perceived mission.
And I love that. Yeah, there was a Steve Jobs, it was out on Facebook or something like that. It was a combative person. He took a question from the audience. He's like, you should be using this technology. This technology is superior than what you're using today. Like, has been out there for years. Like, why aren't you doing that and everything? And he had like a long pause, and he came back. He's like, I failed at this probably more than anybody else. He's like, you got to start with the user experience and then work your way backwards.
Yes.
He's like, this person's probably right. We're not using the technology optimized for this. But that, at the end of the day, does not matter.
But what are you optimizing for? You're optimizing for the end user, not for this specific
we're designed
tech.
for the end user, and then you work backwards, into that. And that's important. Like, I haven't perfected totally, into this, but like some of the stuff we incorporated this, like I wanted to do key shortcuts. We have a universal search. It's like Command K or Control K, depending on what system you are. And you can just start typing to go to wherever you want in the application. Because one of the annoyances I have with other GRC tools is it takes 11 clicks to get to where I want, into this. And I want to be able to navigate around and have have kind of a universal search of like, just start typing and go down and enter or, click on it.
So basically you tell it what you want to do.
Yeah.
So I discovered this in Microsoft over the last couple of years, but not before that. And it was such a pain to go figure out, like, how do I go and find the setting? Some of the Microsoft Office tools, you have to click that one little corner button and it pops up a new window. Clippy. Clippy needs to come up and tell you what to do. And then you go through that. And now in the search bar at the top of the window, you can actually say, give it the command of what you want to do.
Oh, right.
And it will actually just do it right there. And so I love that you're given the ability to quickly get things done, like by telling it what you want.
Yeah, like infinite use cases. Like, a client prospect just asked me what my password controls are. And maybe there's like one sales guy at this company, and you go, oh, well, if he has access to this thing, you just type password into universal search, and guess what? And they all come up. Like
all the controls.
You can do the thing.
All the issues, no matter what it is, like, I mean, we're feeding all the sources of that to make it sure it's like at least clean and relevant and rating it, into that. But I mean, those are basic things, into that. And when you experience like bad tools, like, there's better ways to do this.
Yeah. So this will save you a lot of time. And I know you weren't looking to like actually sales pitch episki, but we've talked about some stuff that's so exciting. How does somebody, what's the website?
Yeah, go to episki.com.
How do you spell it?
EPISKI.
Maybe you can put it in the show notes.
Yeah. It's actually, a lot of people ask me where I got episki from. It's actually a Greek root word episkopos. It's actually a biblical word meaning elder or overseer. And I thought that was a good kind of overseer because you're overseeing kind of the governance program and everything into that. And then I kind of shortened it and put an I and put .com, and that was available, so I bought it, type of thing. So.
Well, there you go. So the topic here today was launching a SaaS, and there's so many things we learned about what you should do and what to consider if you're going on this path.
Yeah, and I will say, like, some of the end stuff into this, I'll just wrap it up and put a cherry. Like, one of the things that we're, when you're deciding a business structure and how to put sales on top of it, one of the things is because we want to appeal to smaller organizations, we couldn't really have a sales staff, behind it because they go on commission, they expect decent commission checks, and at a small price point, you can't really have that, type of thing. So the way we designed this was all kind of self-guided, into that, where you can sign up for a trial, you can play with it yourself, kick the tires, then sign into it. And we have everything kind of automated at the back. So we have a inline chat where you can chat with, myself, another person, get you like what you need. It actually has like demos where it actually leads you through the application to say, you want to add a new framework? Click on this thing right here. Now click on this thing, and it just kind of guides you onto.
So it costs you nothing to go check this thing out. For how many weeks?
2 weeks.
2
14
weeks.
days.
You can check it out for a couple weeks.
And if you need more time, just
push the button.
Ping us. Ping us. We'll gladly give you more time. We just want to put a little bit of urgency, behind it, and not say, "Hey, you got it for 3 months," and you forget about it, And then, we'll make sure we look at a lot of data and the tracking. And like, hey, have you used this feature yet? And not like, hey, here you should use this feature. Here's how to use it. We'll send you reminders, email, and chat, and all that stuff and everything. But yeah, our goal is to kind of get it very kind of easy from an onboarding perspective. You just click some buttons. You got the framework of choice. You're into there. If you need to upload stuff, you just drag and drop it, all that things. And eventually, I think we've talked about this, getting other companies to actually help you kind of manage.
I was just about to go there. So if you're a company and you're small and you're a startup and you're getting pushed to get your compliance in order, and you need a tool and you can't afford to buy an expensive tool, but you can't afford to go hire somebody. You have a choice. You go hire that full-time engineer, or you probably don't need a full-time engineer, or you can get some fractional help, which is exactly the kind of stuff Rick does, some of the stuff I do, some stuff you're still doing, and you're working your way out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so you're looking for folks like us. Yeah. So, start with episki and figure it out. See if you can do it yourself. And if not, call one of us up
Yep.
and we will put some engineers on this at a very affordable fractional price to run your GRC program using this tool.
Yeah.
No problem.
And that could be like just getting you set up and kind of, you know, in a good state or ongoing, you know, which it usually turns into that because people realize like, oh, yeah, there is a lot of work here that I don't typically want to do.
As an entrepreneur running a company, the last thing I want to do is stop doing the things that are going to get me new customers, make my current customers more successful.
Yep.
I want to be out. Actually, the part I still love to keep doing is VCSO stuff. I love to keep talking to the top leaders in the companies, helping them understand what to do. And every minute that I'm spending doing bookkeeping, something else, is a minute I'm not helping them succeed at the thing I love to do, and they want me to help them with. And so I'm not a bookkeeper. I've outsourced that. And my accounting company is doing a fantastic job of keeping that going. And at first I thought, wow, this is expensive. I'm paying this much a month to have these people do this stuff. And now I'm like, it's done. And it's done
benefit
perfectly.
To your time.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I just, I went through a few companies. I share with you some of the bad, stuff I went through. But now I have a company like every single week I get a report. I get end of month, like reporting and everything. And that's the biggest thing. If you're we got this question last night about starting your own company and why'd you do that?
Oh yeah.
And a lot of us are freedom. We want to set our own culture. We want to, basically, fail or succeed on our own merits, into that. But you're absolutely right. Like, that doesn't mean I want to do every aspect of the company. In fact, as soon as I can afford it, I'm pushing it off to somebody else, type of thing. Like, the only reason I'm still doing it is because I haven't found the right person, or I'm, not at that state where I can,
the ROI is not quite there yet.
Yeah, exactly. Like doing the podcast here, with Buzzy, like I did the cutting of our first episode. I'm like, nope.
There's people out there.
We got to find somebody to do this.
They do the perfect thing. Can I have a little bit more before we
absolutely.
Cheers?
So, Justin, while we were pouring that, what's been the most satisfying moment, or like the thing that makes you happiest about having started on this journey with episki?
I mean, a ton of stuff. You're talking specifically with SaaS, or
what makes you happy about the decisions you made to build a product?
So I like being my own boss, minus all the minutia of stuff.
I can see that because I don't think I could ever have hired you and managed you.
Yeah, I know.
You'd be impossible to manage.
I'm pretty difficult and everything. I don't think so. Other people say I am.
Well, you have strong and well-reasoned opinions.
Yeah. I mean, I at some point we should go over some of my firing layoffs, and everything. But I stand by all the facts of the case, in that. Like,
you're much easier to work with as a peer.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm very opinionated. Not that I step into anything. Like, I'm never I'm not going to blow up in front of a customer. Like, that's taboo, type of thing. But I will pull an executive aside and be like, what you're doing is wrong.
Oh, and I love that transparency. And I actually encourage every person on my team to tell me that. I had a really good candid conversation with a customer last evening about what we could do better on this stuff. And I got great feedback, and I super appreciated it.
See, I've gotten fired over that.
No,
where
not my world. That won't happen.
It was, some, sexual, and I'm not getting anywhere to the company, but like sexual improprieties were going on. Everybody's rumoring on the back end, and I pulled the executive aside. We're like, hey, like, you're ruining morale in the company. You are ruining it, in here. And a month later, I was fired, into that, and that's the thing. It's like, I'm not afraid to do that because, like, if I do get fired, okay, I'll find another, type of thing. And now I don't have to, I just have to, critique myself on how bad I'm doing.
So you got independence. That's one of the things of running your own company. Well, that's great.
But I say, from a happy spot, like I would love, to hit some of the marks with episki, get the SaaS out. We just started advertising, we got a whole bunch of leads about last year. We paid for marketing, and I just got my stat, I think late last week or early this week and everything, on some of our stats and everything. We put in about $1,000 from Wednesday to Wednesday
for advertising.
For advertising on Google. We're gonna also do to LinkedIn, maybe a little bit less than $1,000. We were getting. I just got the report. 34% click-through rate.
Nice.
Which, if people
That's
aren't
high.
familiar, yeah, exactly.
That's super high.
And if people aren't familiar, so it's kind of broken out into impressions, which is what
someone looked.
Just somebody saw it on their webpage, type of thing. And then click-through rate is they looked and they clicked. So broken down between somebody searched for GRC tools or something like that, and we're bidding on good keywords, and I have an excellent SEO girl that's like, she's phenomenal, and everything. But with this, we critique we're running kind of 3 ads with a number of keywords and everything. We're getting a 34% click-through rate on first, and it's still kind of ironing out. But super high.
Right.
People will be happy with 5%.
Right. That's amazing.
With this. And now, I'm redoing a little bit of the marketing website to make sure we're catching all the AI keywords, because I just saw a stat the other day, 30% of Google searches are done by ChatGPT and all the AI and things. So they're basically going to ChatGPT for their initial search for anything.
Yeah.
It's totally
It's the new Google.
Yeah. But you have to now craft your website in a certain way to then get the answers to what they're asking.
Yeah, I've had a couple of customers recently tell me that they found us because they found us through asking ChatGPT for help on getting the various frameworks that we support.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
And it goes to a lot of the content, but you can also format your content to be more AI digestible.
Friendly.
Type of thing. They recommend almost FAQ type stuff, the question that's asked and then you answer it, type of thing is very AI friendly when they can see a question answer aligned directly with that. But anyways, we're redoing it to get more conversions into that.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
And more content. But
so as we wrap this up, what kind of pitfalls would you say that people should, if they're going to build a product, they want to start thinking ahead? Like I said earlier, I want to know what my end state's looking like so I know where I'm driving to.
Yeah.
Knowing what pitfalls to avoid as I get there is a super powerful thing.
Yeah.
What would you suggest?
So I would say, if you can develop fast, fail fast, into it, try to get a product as soon as you can into a customer's hand and start getting feedback out. That was never a problem for me, getting feedback, but it's taken so long without actually having that. The full-time developer I first hired, he started August of last year, into that. So a little over a year. And since then, we've been putting in tons of features.
That's awesome.
Night and day, from where it was to where it is today.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have been able to got there without him coming on board and helping me and focusing on it day in and day out, into that. That was a realization of my failure trying to straddle, the businesses into that. The other thing is get a good feedback loop, into this once you have a product. And you get some feedback with customers. Obviously, a lot of that may be manual, doing conversations with customers on kind of your first dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen, whatever it may be. But you then need to figure out how to get a good built-in feedback loop to address stuff, pretty regularly and make sure it's part of the build process. One of the things that I just shared with my developer and I love, we use a Jira software development product called Linear.
Oh, yeah.
And they do a lot of good stuff out there, but they actually recently did a blog post on their 0 bug policy. So all bugs don't go to the backlog. They get assigned in the current sprint. And they either deal with it then or they dismiss it and say, we're not going to ever fix it.
We're never going to fix it.
Yeah. So it might be very small, does, like it's, affects maybe one user. It's an edge case that's like, it's just not worth it, type of thing.
That's a really interesting
But they have to decide, never fix or this spread. Like, that's the choice that it comes into it. And
now, clearly there are some things that are like structural, like this is going to just take longer, but does it starts in this sprint?
Bug. Feature.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So
but even a bug, if it's like architectural systemic.
Yeah, but usually bugs are like something's not working as expected.
Okay, fair enough.
But they had to, before they actually implemented it, they had to clear out their backlog. They had a whole bunch of backlogs, into it. So close it, fix it, whatever it is. They had to get down to 0, but then they incorporated it into their normal process. And like then they were showcasing like on Twitter, like, hey, I reported this bug and it was fixed within a day.
That's wild.
And there was customers like attesting to that, like, this is phenomenal.
It's either
that's
do it now or do it never.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's super cool.
Yeah, and it's just like that customer experience, like, that's what you want to kind of.
That's like zero inbox version.
Yeah,
exactly.
Inbox 0, bug 0.
And that's the stuff I love, like, and getting into that customer.
So have you adopted that?
We're getting there.
Yeah, well, that's super.
That is really.
I mean, we
neat.
don't have a ton of customers right now, so there's not a lot of bugs being reported with that. But we do have monitoring software where we're getting bugs in as we experiencing them, and we're actually triaging them and actually fixing it, into that.
Wow.
So yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, eccentric customer focus. Like if they're reporting something that's interfering with that, then let's get on the thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about blow up your roadmap every time a customer is like, I really like if you add a button to do this, type of thing. You do have to pass it through kind of a.
But to your point, bugs not features.
Right, exactly. A bug is something like, it should work like this.
We thought it did work this way.
Type of thing. But a feature is, you got to screen it like, is this something we want to go down the road with? Does it make sense, at this time? There's a whole bunch of kind of considerations when you're building out your roadmap. Are we putting this ahead or keeping it at the behind from, prioritizing this type of thing? But yeah, just being, kind of attuned to where, the majority of your customers are, is really where you're going to succeed. And the bottom line is, like anybody who's trying to build like a company, solve problems. That's the end of the day. Is
Absolutely.
Problems,
I don't want to keep bringing it back to Ed Norton, but he said one thing that was stuck with me since then. And it was like the desired state isn't profit. The desired state is providing a solution that's so necessary. Profit is the natural outcome.
Yes.
Oh,
I loved it's never going to leave my brain.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a good way to think about it.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're on the idea, like when we're finalizing this and looking, started to push it out, we're looking for wow moments. It's like, when will the customer say, wow, this is exactly what I'm looking for, or wow, and building a use case around those moments and then making sure all those features.
So in the future, we'll be able to go to your website and see the wow moments place.
The Goodyear?
The wow moments place on your website?
The wow moment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The highlight reel. It's the highlight reel, kind of.
Oh, I totally want to go to
all the,
episki. So here's the future URL, episki.com/wow.
Mm-hmm.
You go there, you'll see the best stuff.
Yeah.
This is what you'll expect to get
Yeah.
when you use this tool.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
just the stuff that's like, like you go in there, you click a button, and you have all these frameworks, or you go in there with some of the stuff we're building with like automation, and you get all the tasks suggested to you. Just bring in a framework there. Those are the wow moments. Like, wow, this is really easy.
Yeah.
Or, wow, this is all in front of me, like now I have a complete picture. Like, and then you build off of that story and then kind of work behind it, like the Steve Jobs thing. You get kind of the end customer experience and then work backwards on what features need to be there to support that.
All right. So go to episki.com and check it out.
Sign up, absolutely free. You don't even have to drop a credit card to try it.
I love it.
Hey, that's
Cheers,
awesome.
guys.
Cheers.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We actually listen to your comments here, so don't forget to say if you like the episode or if you have suggestions for us for next time to talk about. And cheers. Have a good one.
See you, everybody.
Bye.